Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Loretta Green.
And today we are going to be going over Moonlight on Roseville Beach. This is a queer game of disco and cosmic horror. It's a tabletop role-playing game about a queer beach town in 1979 and the residents who solve its strange occult mysteries and protect it from elder gods, weird monsters, and greedy real estate developers.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. This is a great one, and this is from our Rook Studio. They've done a lot of stuff. It's interesting. I bought a lot of things over time, and then realized as I eventually found Richard and their portfolio that I have all of this. I have Enoch's Wake, and I have Sherwood, and I have all of the things because they all slap super hard. But happy Valentine's Day, buddy.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Hey, love you, man.
Love you too.
Hey, and just so everyone knows where we stand on everything, it is Valentine's Day. Love is love, and that means everybody gets to love whoever the fuck they want. So the entire LGBTQIA, community. If we support them, and if you don't, go fuck yourself.
Fuck you.
I think if you are not a fan. You're not a fan of us either.
On Twitch?
I don't know. In game, in Grand Theft Auto role playing, do that. But yeah, as I said, this is a day of love, and that means everyone can love whoever the fuck they want. We're just a couple of cishet white dudes, and we try to be as supportive as we can, and we're going to try to be as respectful as we can as we go through this game, which is. It's not even queer coded. It's just an incredibly queer game.
It's a great game, though.
It's so fucking good.
It's a great, not just game. The book itself is a great overall product, and the setting is great, and the mechanics for it are really interesting. Yeah, shout out this game.
Yeah, we're gonna go over it. If you couldn't guess, we like it. So you don't need to listen to the next 2 hours probably. But yeah. So we'll get into a little bit of the game. We do want to make a quick stop though. A little detour. We're gonna go over to Kickstarter actually.
Oh wow! Throwback. Kickstart the podcast, y'all.
Right. Crazy. Let's hop over here. So. Our Rook Studio, the maker of the game that we're going to be reviewing today, Moonlight on Roseville Beach. For those that are unaware, Zine Quest is going on right now, so a lot of things are funding. A lot of things are crowdfunding across the various things, and Rich's project is Silver Age. This is a Mark of the Odd game of werewolves. It's a tabletop RPG of bad moons, small towns, monstrous heroes, and sacred metals. This one looks really cool. I mean, obviously, you are the big Mark of the Odd guy.
Yeah, you had me Mark of the Odd.
Yeah. How about Hattie, Texas in 1991? I know where Hattie, Texas is. I'll tell you that. The craziest thing is that I guess Richard also grew up in Texas, and so did both of us. We were all born in Texas and moved to various places. But anyway, so Silver Age is a tabletop role-playing game of werewolves and the towns they protect, a love letter to werewolf cinema, Jack Williamson's Darker Than You Think, TJ Klune's Wolf Song, and late night sessions of Mage the Ascension and Werewolf the Apocalypse. The cover slaps like crazy. This werewolf kind of holding the head of this person in front of them. But this is inspired by their time living in West Texas. It says, like a lot of little towns in the hills between Abilene and San Angelo, Hattie is deeply implicated in the problems of both the 1990s and 2020s, American militarism, corporate prisons, and carceral state. Its town fathers sold its soul for pork, barrel, and graft, but what they got in return were monsters. Hattie needs heroes, and in Silver Age, it gets heroes the town's respectable citizens would never choose and could never deserve. So werewolves. Hey, and we have somebody in chat who might be interested in what we're talking about today. It's a great game. This is a very interesting looking game. It is funded. It's still going for 11 more days. It's over on Kickstarter. If you like Mark of the Odd, if you like werewolves, and if you like all of the stuff that our Rook Studio has done, I highly recommend backing it. This was an instant back for me. A quick reminder too, we are not sponsored by fucking anybody. We just like cool shit, and this game looks really, really cool. And as does the game that we're looking at today. So So definitely go recommend backing that. I'm really excited to get this one. So we'll see how that goes.
We have a very inverse model on our podcast. Instead of making money doing it, it actually costs us money because we buy all these games.
Yes, it's cost us a lot of money. Someone actually asked on our Blue Sky, "Hey, you guys don't accept review copies. Does that mean you bought everything?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, it does. I have bought the 100+ games and more. Every game that we review, we do purchase." This is just our model. It is not how we feel about everyone. Everyone can do their own thing, but we just feel that if we're going to promote a game, we want to promote it with our money too, and support indie authors that way. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's us. We're just so private. We're just swimming in it. So I'll buy your $15 PDF. No. Okay. So Moonlight on Roseville Beach. So I got a stack of stuff here. I'm not going to use a down camera today because I didn't set it up, but we have, and I'll explain it a little bit. No, you know what? I'll read through the thing here. So Moonlight on Roseville Beach was created by Richard Ruane with art direction by Die Sugar. Shout out Die. It was on Kickstarter for a paperback run and funded on November 24th, 2021 with 420 backers for $11,364 on a $3,000 goal. That is this version. That is Moonlight on Roseville Beach paperback version. Really nice. Big paperback. It was released in 2023 and has since earned a Judge Spotlight Indie Award, received an honorable mention from the Indie Groundbreaker Awards, and got a must-play designation from Tabletop Game Magazine, and returned to Kickstarter for a hardback run and funded on November 17th, 2023 with 264 backers for $11,991 on a $4,000 goal. So the game twice now has made like $24,000, which is nice.
Cool.
And that is what this is. This is the hardback. And we'll get a little deeper into that. And the digital book is available on itch and Drive-Thru RPG, and print copies are available at a number of shops, including Spearwitch, Writing Caddy, IPR, Exalted, and more. You can find it in a bunch of places. It's great.
I love the paperback version because I like a lot of the art from this is very romance novel. And I love it in the paperback because it feels like you picked up like a romance novel, you know?
Yes.
It's amazing.
I'm not gonna lie, I agree. I love that I have the hardback. I love books in hardback.
Beautiful.
But I do genuinely think that the paperback might be, in my opinion, the superior edition for that exact reason. I feel like I'm picking up like a pulp book, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it does feel really nice. Both are great, and we'll go over that. There's also, we're gonna get into a little bit more. There's 3 zines that we'll talk about a little bit later, probably when we get to value, that are also part. I don't think that these are available in print anywhere. I think these might have just been on Kickstarter, but they are on itch, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think that is the entire Moonlight on Roseville Beach plethora. There is the hardback, the paperback, and the 3 zines that you can physically get in print. There's more in digital. But let's why don't we there we go.
Beautiful.
Boom. All right, so Moonlight on Roseville Beach, a queer game of disco and cosmic horror from our Rook Studio. First of all, cover slaps.
Yeah.
We'll get into the art a little bit more, but it just looks great. It definitely gives you that immediate sense of like the 1950s to 1970s like pulp romance novel. I have these like weird random for reasons I'm not going to get into, these like nursing romance novels from the 50s, and it is and it is the exact, I'm turning them into the travel notebooks for some of my like nurse friends and stuff like that.
Cool.
But like it just hits, and the illustrations inside hit, and obviously these are illustrations from that era. We'll get into that a little bit more. But even the way that they did like the logo across the front, the writing the bottom quarter, first printing anywhere written on it, like half the paperbacks I have that, like this is the first one. So great cover, slaps. It's really great. And yeah, I think we're gonna say it's really great a lot of the times as we go through this.
We're probably going to. I am a big fan of this. I was reading this as I was working, and I was really falling in love with this as I went through. We'll talk about it as we get there. But I think my favorite part of this, shockingly for the first time ever, my favorite part of a game is the stories in it written within the world. You know, usually like if I dislike those things, I'm like, oh, that's cool. But these were great. I really enjoyed these.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. I can't pick a fair. I mean, I think the resolution mechanic just slaps so hard.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I really can't pick. As we go through, I'll probably find that one weird random thing that I always like fall in love with. But yeah, so Moonlight on Roseville Beach, our Rook Studio, created by Richard Ruane, written by a bunch of people, additional content by more people, developmental editing, copy editing, and proofreading by Jared Sinclair, sensitivity reading by Brian Kunde of GamerX, and then art, direction, and layout by Die Sugars. Once again, shout out Die Sugars. This game looks incredible.
Yeah.
And you know, if Die did it, that I'm sure it's set up perfectly for screen readers, and they added in a page so that when we flip to spreads in PDF, we get the full spread. So clap for Die in the chat. Really fantastic.
Such a detail that you and I would know this. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, because when we kick to spreads, and this book is designed to be in spreads a lot of the time, so we're going to be kicking back and forth between pages and spreads, but it's great. I'll say right off the bat, what do we care about? Hyperlinks and bookmarks. So guess what? We got tons of hyperlinks. You can see, I clicked one on accident there. The little hand. Well, I know my dumbass did it again. My little cursor turns into a hand as I scroll over the things, which means they're hyperlinked, which is great. They're pretty thoroughly hyperlinked as well too. And look at that, bookmarks that are pretty thoroughly bookmarked too. There's a couple things missing. We'll get to that a little bit later. The only thing I noticed right on the first page, did you notice anything about the table of contents right on the very first page? Like literally within like the first 4 lines?
What? Tell me.
There's a typo. It says Roseville Beach locations. Yeah. I checked it, and it's in all versions. It's in the physical version of paperback, it's the physical hardback version, and it's in the PDF version. So that extra E is just kind of floating there, unless Roseville has an extra one floating in there. But regardless, looks great. I mean, what's weird, like, to say immediately, I love the font on here. I love this very, like, sans serif.
There's a ton of style choices made with font and layout that I'm like, these are good decisions that were made, shockingly, by Die Sugar.
Yeah, shockingly, the person who's like a fantastic at layout decided to do a really great layout. But so the book total is over, I think it's like 160-ish pages long. There's 3 sections. It's broken up into a part 1, a guide for sleuths, part 2, Game Master's Book of Secrets, and then part 3, Mysteries of Roseville Beach. Love it. Thank you. Please giving me a very dedicated player section, a very dedicated GM section where those things don't merge or cross over. Like, they don't need to. Give me the player stuff and then give me the GM stuff. And they do a really good job of that in here. So part 1 has, gosh, so many. I usually like to read through all of these. There's so many. There's like 20 different sections here. We're not going to go through all of them, but there's map locations, there's the character creation, there's the rules, and then moving into the GM section, it's GM stuff, and then the adventures, which obviously I'm not going to go over. So we'll just cruise into this a little bit. I like the artist dedication and stuff right off the beginning in the front. It says, all art in this book has been repurposed from works in the public domain. Original artists have been credited whenever possible, but the nature of pulp book illustrations mean that many artists were uncredited in the original release or worked under a pseudonym that can no longer be traced. For a good history of pulp art, I recommend reading the books Queer Pulp, Perverted Passions from the Golden Age of the Paperback by Susan Stryker, and American Pulp, How Paperbacks Brought Modernism to Main Street by Paula Rabinowitz. There's websites here too, gayontherange.com and strangesisters.com, both meticulously maintained by Ryan Richardson with invaluable, were also invaluable in research for this book. There's an illustration index, so every piece of art in the book that can be attributed is here, which is fantastic. And then on the next page, there is a note on representation, which is also really good. I'm going to read most of this as well. The book relies on illustrations from weird fiction and queer pulp history, will necessarily grapple with issues of representation. For much of the 20th century, the image of the queer person was predominantly white, cisgender, and fit a very narrow definition of physical attractiveness and gender expression. Attempts have been made to show a variety of races and body styles, but they are limited by the material available. It is our hope that this book serves as a way for you and your friends to create stories that showcase the full spectrum of the queer experience without feeling tied to the notions of the past. So, using the art of a time period where most of it was like white and cisgender, they did their best, and you work with what you have at the time. So, and that's from Di and Richard. So, gosh, right off the bat, kicking into spreads, part 1, A Guide for Sleuths, has this great piece with these people running. It's a very like I don't. It's not abstract, but it's very like boxy art behind it.
Impressionistic.
Yeah, we'll go with that a little bit. It's just not super detailed, but in a very interesting way. But again, I'm just going to scroll through so people can see like the spreads a little bit, because I'm probably not going to switch to spreads a lot of the times. But it's really designed to be read in spreads, which is great. But we don't on the show because my ADHD is too bad for spreads. It's too much information. So I'll kick to that.
Say, for a game that's like 160 pages, does not feel like it. Like, you know, if you listen to the show, I am a very minimalist boy, and I love my zines. I was not at all overwhelmed by going through this like I am with some other things that we go through. I thought this was great.
No, well, I mean, because realistically, the player stuff before you hit GM section is like 60 pages. And if you actually took out the arts and stories and stuff like that, you're down to like 45 pages. And then like the character classes are 2 pages spreads each for 6 of them. That's 12 pages. The guest stars is like 5 pages. So the real bulk of this game is 35 pages, you know, before you hit some of the other stuff. So definitely not overdone here. So introduction, Moonlight on Roseville Beach. So this is kind of a longer section. It is setting the tone for the entire game, so I'm going to read a lot of this, but we're going to skip through other sections that are big. But since this does basically give you how the entire game is, we're going to give you this right here. So Moonlight on Roseville Beach. The book you have in your hands or on your screen reader, that's definitely is a tabletop game set in the seaside village of Roseville Beach. Often in tabletop role-playing games, players take on the roles of veteran adventurers, high-powered heroes or villains, or skilled investigators taking part in chronicles, campaigns, and series that span nations, continents, or worlds. But in Moonlight on Roseville Beach, it's the summer of 1979, and you work in the village by day while protecting yourself and your housemates and your neighbors from supernatural monstrosities and occult horrors by night. You fucking got me already right there. Just throwing it out there. You might be a werewolf bartender, a former high school theater star on a temp gig as a backup dancer, a one-time political aide hiding from a scandal and helping out at the community clinic, or a newly minted witch helping the gardeners at the community center. While the mysteries you set out to solve might take you beyond the village of Roseville Beach, they rarely take you off Rose Island. In 1979, Roseville Beach and the neighboring town of Pinewood Harbor are primarily LGBTQIA+ communities, inclusive of people, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, intersex, and asexual, as well as others who are marginalized due to their sexuality or gender identity. As such, Roseville Beach is what people would call a queer norm setting. Queer identified people aren't just welcome and celebrated, but outnumber people with cisgender and heterosexual identities. As a queer norm setting, LGBTQIA+ characters are the default, and most people here assume anyone they meet in Roseville Beach identifies as queer. However, the world beyond Roseville Beach and Pinewood Harbor is as heteronormative and cisnormative as any other city, town, or region in North America in 1979, or the present day. Beyond those small towns, citizens, political officials, and police departments express art. Beyond those small towns, citizens, political officials, and police departments express an often violent bigotry that LGBT plus people, especially trans and non-white people, continue to see in the 21st century. Thus, when sorcerers, necromantic secret societies, gothic terrors, and supernatural entities from beyond our own reality start to trouble or threaten Roseville Beach, there aren't any officials or law enforcement agency residents can trust. Huh.
Just like real life right now.
Just like real life. That's where the player characters in Moonlight on Roseville Beach come in. You are the local residents who've seen what's going on. The people in your town turn to you. It's so good.
It's amazing. I love the cultural notes on like queer culture, especially like in this time period, and like the attachment to like this is still a thing now. And I love the idea that like you cannot depend on the law enforcement. Like it is the communities that support each other.
Yeah, we're gonna get a lot of ACAB in here. So
we're gonna say fuck the police a lot, which is not.
If you're a fan of the Thin Blue Line, go hang yourself with it. So
if you're a fan, it's amazing you'd be watching this show after everything we've possibly said.
Hey, listen, we get comments every now and then, leftist gamers and dirt. Anyway, so Another section here. This is queer going ons in a queer 1979. I'm going to summarize this a little bit. So it says the term queer is used to describe a broad spectrum of genders and sexualities. It wasn't used as such back then, but it is a term modern gamers can understand. 70s and 80s was often full of all of the phobias, transphobia, homophobia, everything. And although they exist and they're a thing to have in the game world, they are not to be brought into the game itself, right? Like all of the phobias exist as as obstacles or issues within the game world, but you are not to be, transphobic or biphobic or anything.
No being a bigot playing this game. So.
Right, that's the easiest way to say it. Yeah. Once again, we've said it before, we'll say it again, big as fuck off. Having fun with monsters, mayhem, and kissing. What's funny is we didn't plan this for Valentine's Day.
It's a great Valentine's Day episode. It's a great one. I thought we did, actually.
Here's the thing, is we've been doing this for 3 years, and we have every single holiday we've ever done, we've missed doing a themed episode for it. Maybe one Halloween. We did, even our 69th episode, we didn't get to do like bondage nuns or anything,
Well, we should have. Next, the 269th episode, we'll do it then.
There you go.
Yeah, I really thought that this was I thought you did this on purpose. And I was like, this is a perfect V-Day episode.
Happy accident. I'll be completely honest. The reason we picked this game was because obviously I like Richard's stuff, and I knew Richard was funding Silver Age starting on the 11th. So I was like, well, then let's do this on that Friday so we can talk about Silver Age on the show. And then I realized, it's Valentine's Day. This is fucking perfect. So it just worked out. Happy accidents. Having fun with monsters, mayhem, and kissing. This game, basically, this is their version of safety tools. The game comes with a digital consent sheet, like content sheet is what it talks about. I'll talk about this a little bit. When a game can touch on the serious themes of horror, romance, and relationships, it's good to calibrate the expectations of everyone at the table. The game does come with a digital tool that you can use that. It's like a calibration sheet. It talks about content a little bit. It says, although Roseville Beach is queer norm, the wider world is full of bias. So in the content section, you can kind of choose the level of bias you want in the game, whether it's like an abstract kind of amorphous, thing, or whether it's something that you're going to deal with specifically in the game. Entirely up to you and what you want to bring to the table. Same thing with tone. The game generally has a lighter tone, but you can go as hard as you want as far as like more, I don't want to say Scooby-Doo-ish, but that kind of gives me a little bit of those vibes. You can play a little bit of that. Like, it's really just this one asshole in a mask versus like deep eldritch horror. So you could really turn this into like a horror game if you really wanted to. There are possibilities in the game to do that. And basically you can set the tone that you want for the game, even though it is kind of designed to be a slightly lighter tone. And that's
go ahead, finish your thought.
No, that's just a content tone. That's it.
I think like this would really shine in for me at my table, at least, with it being like a lighter tone, like 80% of the time, and then having those darker moments, because I feel like in a game that's like not jovial per se, but like has a lighter tone, is more fun, that when you really do get to those gritty moments, they feel grittier because you're having such a good time most of the time,
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I think if you just have a couple of those big heavy notes, it really it makes the heavy feel heavier and the light feel lighter. So yeah, that's the only problem with like having everything be like edgelord bullshit all the time. Is it's like one note of like black and blood, and it's like
then nothing's and then nothing's dark and gritty.
I mean, I'm whatever. Not for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
There's a little spot here on the secret dictionary. It says throughout the book, we'll use tabletop RPG abbreviations and such as GM, PC, NPC. If you're not familiar with these terms, we encourage you to check out some of the numerous introductions to and demo plays of tabletop RPGs online. I love that.
Yeah,
basically, this says we're not going to give you a whole page of that stuff here. Go check it out. There's plenty of resources for it. We don't need to give it to you here. I love that. There is another section here for more safety tools. It talks about lines and veils, talks about consent sheet. So those exist. They're out there. You can find them. Lines and veils is in just about everything in the world. And then consent sheets, it says it's created by Sean K. Reynolds and Shanna Germain. Consent sheets are much like directed versions of lines and veils. So you can look those up from those creators and check that out. So great thing to have in the game. Obviously, I would be shocked if there weren't more discussion of safety tools, and that's a great thing to have here. So this is our first of many. Let me kick over to a 2-page spread here. Stories from Roseville Beach. This is one of the things you said was one of your favorite parts, right?
Is it the kid in the diner one?
Yeah. The one that, like, the piano player.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these throughout. So it's basically interspersed throughout the game are these 1-page little fiction shorts that really, really, really help set the tones and the vibes and stuff for the game. And once again, there's a nice little spread here. On the left is a piece of art of this shirtless, buff young man looking away. It says, "Everybody's a beach bod on Rose Island."
It says every bod's a beach bod.
Every bod's a beach bod.
Meaning no matter what your body is, you have a beach bod. Like, I love
because you're on Rose Island. Yeah.
I also love this short story, and it's about a youth who like grew up in like a very like Christian community, like trying to like figure out what he's going to do as he's queer. But I really love the end of it that says, I'm just going to read the last paragraph after, because he meets a person in the diner and the person's like, "Go here, apply to be the piano player and you'll get the job. I tell him I sent you. Like, whatever you're running away from and trying to figure out, you'll find it here." And at the very last paragraph, I think is great because I think often religion is horrifyingly awful to queer people. But I'll read it. After 18 years of unanswered prayers, Victor finally heard what he hoped was still Victor finally heard what he hoped was the still small voice of God, and it said, "Go." So Victor took everything he had and he went. And I just love the idea that, like, instead of this horrible like religious upbringing that told him it wasn't okay to be who he was, like, this is God speaking to him, like, this is the place you're supposed to be. It's a safe place for you. I'm like, that's a great end to this.
Yeah, I do really like it. I mean,
I don't believe in God, but I still like.
Yeah, let's just piss off everybody. Like, most Christians are the least Christian people that I know. If you've ever actually read the Bible, so yeah. Moving on from there, we're getting into the Roseville Beach map. This is another great 2-page spread. Again, we're going to be going back and forth on this a lot. So this is Welcome to Roseville Beach. It's very much like a beach island. I don't know. So I know Richard is in, I don't think it's a secret. He talks about it all the time. He said "Go Birds" a million fucking times. It's in like the Philadelphia area. So I used to live outside of that area, and we would go to Sea Isle City, New Jersey, like constantly. My friend had a house in Sea Isle City, New Jersey. This almost looks like a friggin' map of Sea Isle City because it's a very like narrow little island. But the map is really fantastic. And even some of the names on the map are great. Like Wilde is obviously Oscar Wilde. Yeah. Stonewall is obviously Stonewall. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's
Garland, bro.
Yeah. And I'm sure all of these are references, and many I'm not getting. But there is a Harbor Street. There's an Ocean Street. But a lot of these are, like I said, are obviously references. And the map is really cool. I really like this top-down view. The page with the tops. No,
I also love how easy it would be to navigate this because it's a grid. It's a grid of streets instead of just making a a lot of beach towns are like that, but I'm from a city that's all loops and bullshit. So this would be very easy to navigate. Be very easy for players to learn how it's laid out and know where they're all at all times.
Yeah. Well, so are you on Oceanside or are you on Harborside? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. The map says Roseville Beach is a small town situated on Rose Island, a barrier island off the North American Atlantic or Gulf coasts. Gulf of America, right?
Yeah.
While there are several towns on the island, Roseville Beach, between Lily's Woods to the east and Rose Island Swamp to the west, is among the oldest primary LGBT plus communities in the region. Again, cool map, like I said. So the Roseville Beach locations, there's a ton of them. So there are 12 locations, each with a description and some names NPCs. We can pick one. You get a dice roll already. We made rolling dice a ton.
I know. I already know which one I want to do.
Which one do you want to do?
Screw's Turn, dude. And
Screw's Turn.
Hours Piano Bar is popular with the drag queens and theater lovers across the island. It's owned by the gruff head bartender, Doug Miles, he, him, and his on again and off again ex, Peter Quint, he, him, Flora Bly, or Nolan Milstead, he, they, by day. The resident drag queen does shows every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
There's so much information, just a couple of lines there,
Yeah,
and such
totally.
a good,
I would love that this bar was in my town. So
yeah. And you get, what is it? 1, 2, 3. You get like 3 named NPCs right there, right in that spot, which is really fantastic. So again, there's 12 spots like that. We got the Cabana, Screw's Turn, Cedar Point, Ocean Palace. It's great art. I know we're not even talking about the art the whole way through. First of all, the background page has a very much like a book that's been around since the 70s. It's yellowed a little bit.
yeah,
It's got
texture to it.
It's got a great texture. It also is a little bit like the paper isn't perfect. You know what I mean? Like you can see little flecks and stuff in the paper, which is great. So it really looks like a book from the time period, which is fantastic. And then it's not white. And then the art throughout. I mean, we're not gonna be able to stop and talk about how great Dye's art direction is through the entire book. We will at times, but it hits so often every single time. Even on the bottom of page 20, just this little beach scene in the box is such a perfect piece for filling the bottom and going from it. Number 5, we got Floor Manor, the Market, the Community Center, Rosie's, Bracknell Lodge, Violet Flame Candles and Gifts, EJ's Kinema Photography House, and the Culture Hotel. So those are all of us on there. You also get the east of Roseville Beach and rest of Roseville Beach locations. There's a number of locations and listed NPCs for them as well. And then you have a section for the world beyond. It's an Odd Island, mainland county. Yeah, above it, it shows a beach scene with a bunch of rainbow flags that says, "We're here, we're queer, so why aren't you?"
It's like a great advertisement for like a vacation spot, you know?
Yeah, it's great. And again, like even the like ad pieces thrown in, it feels the whole time like it's a pulp book or a pulp magazine that you're reading through.
Yeah,
it's so good. We had another story from Roseville Beach, so it's another one pager. It's like a half a page, this one is, and then at the bottom I love there's an ad at the bottom of it that says, "Stories from Roseville Beach will pay you for your original fact or fiction. We're currently seeking pitches for," and then it goes all these pitches. And even the address I love, because there's like a blotch on the paper and it blotches right where the zip code is, so like they can do an address
wherever this is, you know,
right?
52
Stonewall Street, floor 2, Rose Island, and then there's like a blot out. So it's great. The next, so we're getting into character creation, and this is a great little spread here. 2-page view. This is actually, I don't remember, it must have come with the hardback. One of them came with a bookmark.
Cool.
And it is this piece of art here. And on the back it says, "It's hard to enjoy your gaycation when there's a mystery to solve. Moonlight on Roseville Beach." So cool little bookmark. It's a woman carrying like a wicker bag underneath a stop sign, or like a street sign, and it's Gay Street and
I can't see
a different street.
Yeah, in another street.
But it's great. So this is we're getting into character creation. So as we do, take it away.
Yeah, character creation. Let me scroll to our notes so I can read the. I'm just gonna read the intro. Cool. I was gonna read it anyway. Characters in Moonlight on Roseville Beach have an origin story and a job on the island. In addition, they all have one or more troubles. A very interesting story mechanic. I really love that. Someone they're indebted to, hiding from, trying to impress, or looking out for. Once you have your origin story and job, choose some names as troubles. You'll also choose some comforts and an ally or two. Other players are your housemates, and you've already had some strange adventures together before the game starts. When you and the other players first get together around the table, physical or digital, each player selects a strange event they experience with another housemate.
That's basically character creation right there.
It is, yeah. I love making a character in this. It's very interesting. I like the open-ended troubles, and I like the immediate tie-in with another person at the table talking about the strange events. Oh, hey, a dice roller.
Do we want to rip up a character as we go through these?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, there's no. I mean, we're only going to talk through one of them anyway, so there's no reason not to just.
Which one are we gonna do? Fuck,
bro, it's entirely up to you. I literally in my notes I said pick one.
Yeah, I know I'm like, They're all really good. There's
Yeah.
5 character
There's 6.
classes. 6 character classes. I can count 5. I don't know
Look
what
at the
you're
notes.
talking
6 origins.
yeah, that's also here. So creating a character. The origin stories you can choose from are the Fresh Face, which is a newcomer to Roosevelt Beach and queer life. The Scandalous, someone hiding on Roosevelt Beach, or why am I saying Roosevelt? Roseville Beach from a scandal that disrupted their prior life. The Shifter, a human who transforms into an animal. A Witch, a human who has learned something of magic. A Familiar, an animal who supernaturally bonds to mortals. And then the Stranger, a being from another reality who has taken on a human body for a time. And then let's go over. I want to go over the Scandalous, but I feel
That's
like
fine.
there's like 3 weird magic ones, and like people, I don't know. I want to do the Scandalous. So
yeah. So each origin or has a bunch of stuff.
yes.
So there's 6 origins. Each have a 2-page spread. They include an age, an ability, 6 backgrounds with a D6 list of skills under each, and 2D6 roll tables for your troubles for each one. So literally 6. That's 12 pages of just the character origin stories, which is crazy. So I know you said you love the Scandalous. It's up to you, whichever one, because we're gonna hit magic later. So if you want to talk about the magic, we can talk about the magic a little bit later.
We'll talk about it later then. Yeah, I love the Scandalous because I love the I created the character concept going through this game, as I often do going through these games. And I love it like being a 70s artiste that was like up and coming and had a scandal that came out that they were queer, and they, retreated to live in almost seclusion on Roseville Beach and still like practice their craft and live in a safe space. I don't know. I like that concept.
Yeah, they're great. I'm gonna flip through all of the spreads real quick so people can see. So this is the Fresh Face, which is like you went over those already. This is the Scandalous. This page is also really just a fantastic spread too. The piece of art that they chose for it. The Shifter is here. We got the Witch right here. The Familiar, which we said is basically Salem the cat, which I love. And then the Stranger. I'm shocked. I totally get where you're coming from, the Scandalous, but I even said before stream, I was like, I'm shocked that you didn't like immediately gravitate towards the Stranger. That's what I would have picked.
Great. Yeah, I just like I so often like lean into like the very magic or the very odd. Like this is a game about living as a queer person in a safe space in the 70s, and I really leaned into like that end of this more so than my usual thing.
Gotcha.
So yeah, Scandalous. You were doing fine. You had a life. Maybe you made some mistakes, but you were keeping things together. Then the scandal happened. Now you're keeping your head down and trying to find happiness again. So each of the character classes has an age that you can either just pick or you can roll from. For the Scandalous, you choose an age of 24 or older, or you may roll 3d6 plus 21. How old is our Scandalous?
21 plus 16, which would be 27, 37?
Yes.
37.
37-year-old.
Young man.
Yeah.
Young person.
Yeah. Yep. Bad reputation. Your trouble will tell you what the scandal was, but when you meet someone new, there's a 1 in 6 chance they've seen your picture in a newspaper or a gossip rag.
That's cool. That's good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And that's the ability, which is interesting because if you look at a lot of the other abilities in in the other classes, like for example, if we just scroll back to Fresh Face for a second, they get beginner's luck. Yeah, when you make a roll without the help of your background or skills, you can re-roll any dice that land on a 1, but you must accept it. This one is, I think it's not the same as like dice roll, but as far as the narrative kind of that you can get from it, super dope. It's really, really interesting because again, that could be both good and bad because I'm gonna be like, oh, I was a huge fan, or oh, I actually know about the scandal. Like, could totally switch a lot of stuff in different directions. So that's really neat. I like that a lot.
As like my character concept is like this famous artiste, it's like, yeah, there's a 1 in 6 chance people know who you are because you're this famous artiste that went through this scandal, moving to a great art piece here, very scandalous art piece. Moving on to the backgrounds and skills. So you pick 2 backgrounds, then you roll 2 skills from each. If you get the same skill twice, pick 1 from either background listed instead. So let's see. I mean, are you making a character right now, or are we making
We
one
can do
together?
it together. You can pick a background and I'll pick a background.
I want to pick editorial associate.
Interesting. Editorial associate. I think then what I think tuned in dropped out kind of goes with that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you want to roll 2 skills and I'll roll 2 skills.
Yeah, I don't know why I closed my dice roller down like I wasn't going to use it again, but you
I
know.
got a 4 and a 5. So mine are stubborn and oratory. Oratory is great.
A 2 and a 3. So I got illustration, which goes great, and then writing.
Yo. So they can write, they can draw, they can speak well.
Yeah.
And they're stubborn.
We're building the character I've dreamed of.
There you go.
Yeah. After that, you have the scandal. This is like where you're each character class has these, and it's kind of
troubles.
The origin to your origin, you know?
Yeah, these are your troubles.
Yeah, these
right?
are your troubles. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like
yeah.
it gives you like narrative backdrop to like, yeah, it is your troubles though. So you roll 2d6. Do you want to read through these, or you want to just roll and we'll
I rolled an 8.
Okay, cool. So 6 to 8, you got entangled with a well-known family member, mentor, friend, or ex who did something very unethical or immoral, but not illegal, and disappeared after a media expose. You may want nothing to do with them, but they're still looking for you. Add their name under people I'm hiding from on your character sheet.
Nice. That's nice. So yeah, it is kind of like the origin to your origin, at least for the scandalous. It's like, what was the scandal? Yeah. It's dope.
I think all of them have at least one that is like a person from your past, because it's the full trouble thing. So it's like someone you're looking out for, someone you're hiding from, or like people you owe money to, and there's different ones for each one. So
I think it's a lot of people I'm hiding from, people I owe. If you go to the shifter, there's one that's like people counting on me. So they all give you some type of like I guess it's an NPC, but it's like a thing. People people counting on me. Yeah, they're all kind of like that.
A backstory NPC. The animal the familiar has an interesting one, because you're a familiar, you're an animal, you've always been an animal. So the familiar one is troubles. You don't have typical troubles and can never be in someone's debt. However, someone you don't know well is suspicious of your supernatural nature and keeps a close eye on you when they're around. Additionally, sometimes people who studied or study with the sorcerer who summoned you show up, hoping to get your assistance or to capture you for the power you taught your former sorcerer.
Just can't leave you alone.
I can't, you know? Because I'm a bewitched ferret, you know?
Yeah, is that the way you're gonna go with? You're gonna go with ferret?
No, I would definitely do the cat. 100%.
Yeah.
100 of 100 times I would do the cat.
Bro, but ferret's pretty cool. It's basically like a really skinny cat, like a really long, skinny cat. Yeah, it's a cat snake. Or it's a rat snake. I mean, let's be completely honest.
Yeah, that's probably more true.
I did want to, before we get too far, because we're talking about the character sheet real quick, I didn't have it downloaded, but I do want to show it real quick, because it is great, and there is one, which is really nice. So let me actually download that real quick, and I'll pop it up on stream. I'm obviously going to go with the color one. So this is
obviously got to do the color one.
This is a character sheet. How nice is this character sheet? So
it's great.
It looks like, I actually imagine it as like a folder opened up and there's like things tucked in it, but there's a card, there's a piece of paper that looks like, that's got like it says Kalinian Realty Bungalow Lease. So it's got like a what's it called when there's like a company header on the top of a piece of paper, you know what I'm talking about, like stationery. There's an inventory and note section, the Rose Island Ferry. pass is where you
Is
put like your name and age and
stuff.
pronouns.
Yeah.
It's so good. And like the card at the top where you list your injuries and scares and stuff is St. Jude's Medical Center. It's literally like you're filling in the info sheet, like the intake form. It's as a new patient intake form. They did such a good job of putting it together as basically like a series of slips of paper that fill it in. This is a gorgeous character sheet, and it comes in a color and black and white version. So honestly, like the piece that got me the most were those two things: the fairy pass for your name and then the intake form for your injuries. So clever, so interesting.
Yeah.
They did.
I will definitely
fantastic.
say nothing about this game or any of its associated like downloadable content is lacking in style.
No, not a single piece of it.
So another the Rose Island Board of Labor art piece, another kind of like Addy kind of thing, you know.
You should have ordered that third bottle.
Now after that we get to choosing a job. There's another like little ad at the very top, which is in just 7 days I can make you a man, guaranteed results, no strenuous living. Call, ask for Frank. Yeah, really cool. And then choosing a job. Characters in Moonlight on Roseville Beach solve creepy mysteries and deal with strange monsters, but they also hold down a day job. Once you've chosen your origin story, you come here, you pick a job, or you can work with your GM to invent one, which I think is really interesting and a cool option to leave open. And then you roll or choose a skill you've learned performing it. So let's see, for our scandalous artiste that we're making.
I will say, I do really like that some of the story has got pulled into this a little bit. So the piano player at Cedar Point Hotel is definitely is the first story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the orator, writer, illustrator, stubborn person, where would they be? Where would they work?
I'm thinking opening act at the Cabana.
I don't mind that, and I thought that originally, but then I was like, wait a minute, is that too much attention?
Maybe. Okay, that's a fair point. That might be too much attention. So, bartender at Rosie's?
Dude, yeah, I was even thinking, because they're not going to be a backup dancer, let's be honest.
No.
You know what I mean? And they're not going to be an assistant at the care center, right? My thought was one of two things. One is bartenders at Rosie's, and the other was the garden at the community center if they wanted to get way away, but I think that's too far from the spotlight. Mm-hmm. I think the gardener at Rosie's speaks to the scandalous. Okay.
We'll do gardener at the community center. Or so you're saying wait, did you say bartender at Rosie's or gardener?
Yeah, I think bartender is
bartender at Rosie's.
Because they're close to the spotlight, but a little bit out of it.
You know, you're still kind of main character-y, you know? Perfect.
What skill are you going to pull from that one?
Ooh.
We already got stubborn.
Why don't you pick?
Oh, I'll roll for that shit. D6, 2, charming, duh.
Oh, perfect. That was the one I would have picked. So
yeah. Perfect, it worked out. I like the ads at the bottom too. The John Waters plants and gardens.
Dandelion wine. So it's with the cool little like lion painting a lion in the ad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get to strange events. Were you gonna say
these
something?
Are interesting. No.
Do you want to pick a strange event?
Yeah. So what are the strange events? And I'll pick one as we go through.
So your strange events. So characters in Moonlight on Roseville Beach may have shown up on Rose Island unaware of the shadow world of sorcerers, necromancers, ancient terrors, and elder gods, but something happened. Each housemate chooses one of the following strange experiences, discusses with the player sitting to your left what exactly the two of you saw. So you get to have a little like background character building moment with somebody else in the group, which I think helps ties the group together. Other games have done this in ways that I think are great. This may be my favorite way because it creates like a short like internal story for you and the character.
They're fantastic.
There are 6 experiences that give you and another a skill, ally, or trouble. Which one do we want to do, Ryan?
So I know which one I want to do, but there's the monolith, there's the strange figure, there's lights in the harbor, there's shark people. And then there's the starry form in the dunes and the fortune teller and the poltergeist. Okay. Mm-hmm. 2, 3. Did I count that wrong? 4, 5. No, there's 7. There's 7 of them.
7.
There's 7.
We're great at counting on this show. This is not why y'all are watching.
So I think we need to do 2 because one's going to come up later. So let's do the monolith, and then and we got to do shark people.
We have to do shark people.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Sick. Of those are my favorite ones, even though they're like the first couple. The monolith, the strange figure, and the shark people were my favorites. Yeah. So this is great. So the monolith, the two of you saw a strange bronze monolith. It was always right behind you somehow. You never saw it move. Agree where the two of you last saw it before it disappeared, then roll 1d6.
Each. Right. Oh, roll 1d6.
Oh, yeah, each. Yeah.
I got a 2.
And I got a 3.
Oh, so okay.
4 we both got we got in the same category. It's on 4+ you gain a skill and from the limited choice skills, and on a 3- you start the game with a scare. You always feel like you're being watched. Ooh.
Nice. Yeah, because you got the 4+ and I got the 3-. So, damn, that sucks. I started the game with the scare.
No, I rolled a 3. We both got a scare.
Oh, yeah. So, all right. But then we got to do shark people. We got to do shark people.
All right. Also, shark people ? Exclamation
point. Yeah.
Walking on the beach one night, you both saw shark-like creatures attack a stranger. Name and describe the person you saved, driving the shark creatures away. Then roll 1d6. Let's go ahead and roll again.
5, baby.
I rolled a 5 as well. So on a 4+, you start the game with an ally. The stranger is well informed about Rose Island's strange happenings. I would assume this ally was the person we saved.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then on this one for a 3-, you start the game with a trouble, which is that you're looking after that person that you saved.
Yeah. So now you're like you saved them, but like they're probably super injured, and now you have to deal with it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another great full-page art piece here,
bro. The whatever's going on, whatever she's holding, it makes me just think lobster hands, but they're just missing the bottom part. Yeah. But I can't not see like lobster hands. But yeah, it's a really great piece.
I don't know why, but this is maybe my favorite piece in this book. Like I can't name to you why it is, but I do really love this full-page piece.
It is really neat. What's really interesting, I think, is the background interacting with the foreground in a weird way, because like the background is very like black and dark and starry, but if you look at those 2 random curtains hanging down, the one to her left on our right is actually in front.
Oh, huh.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, really interesting. So yeah, we're skipping all of those. Okay, all right, here we go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me pull back. I went back to the wrong page. Okay, so we have troubles, allies, and comforts. Troubles usually come from your origin. Allies are folks who have some skills, experience, knowledge, or supplies who open my door. They're good folks to know. When you write down the ally's name, add what kind of tasks they're helpful with and what your relationship is with them. Boss, coworker, crush, fling, friend, rival, or something else. In addition to any ally you get from your background, choose an ally you know and are willing to rely on and write their name on your character sheet in addition to any allies you discovered in character creation. Comforts. There are 3 different comforts. They are the special place, a place where you go to pull yourself together. The special memento, something you keep in your room that reminds you of another person, time, or place, or the special person, a friend, lover, or mentor who you go to when things are tough. This can be a housemate or someone else on the island. Beautiful.
That's great. And then another story on Roseville Beach.
Amazing.
A couple other heads on here. Priscilla's cake pies, pastries and bread, and then the bottom one, Gal Pal's nail salon. They're great. So we're moving on to what's next is the equipment and the bungalow. So this is your entire inventory section, right? So basically for equipment, you have what you would normally have is what it says. It says if you're going to a job, you have the things you would have for that job. I like that, where it just says you're not, again, you're not an adventurer. You're not gearing up to go somewhere. You just have the shit that you have, right? If your job would have a flashlight, you have a flashlight. I like that. It also says there's the section here on the bungalow, other equipment, weird supplies, things like that. So you would have what you would normally have plus 3 small items. I know I said flashlight already, but it's flashlight, screwdriver, things like that. That's just what you're carrying on you. And then you can have 4 instead of 3 items if you're carrying a bag or a backpack. So you get a bonus one. The bungalow is where you are all, where your housemates, where your mates, the house that you're mates with, right? It is a place where you stay. So you can return to the bungalow for supplies, which has beach gear, normally any type of beach gear. So like chairs, what else? Umbrellas, sunblock, towels, things like that. That's all there, right? And for anything else, you would do a supply check. So I'm just going to read this section here on supply check because I love the way that they do inventory in this. We're saying that about a lot of stuff, but we're hitting kind of like the rules meaty part of the game now. And there's some really interesting things they do. And I love a nice, clean inventory system. And I love quantum inventory. So this is how it works. When you attempt to get supplies from your bungalow, you roll 1d6. The number is equal to or less than the bungalow's supply rating, you find the item. If it's higher than the supply, you find something else that will do in a pinch, and your supply goes down. When the supply reaches 0, you can't return to the bungalow for equipment again. Even if something was there before, it's been borrowed, misplaced, or lost. I love the way that works. And if we scroll down a little bit, we'll get to bungalows in a second. But there's starting bungalows that talk about supply. We'll get there. So at the start of each session, you're going to reset your bungalow supply, and you get to choose something you have a lot of on hand. Any one thing, canned tuna, rope, sunblock, like whatever you want. Each session, you just stocked up on something, which I think is such a cool way to do the supply. And if you do choose the thing that you have a lot of on hand, you get to roll twice and choose the higher number so that you can is it higher or lower? You get advantage. You get to roll twice and pick the number that's better for you, taking the better result. Yeah. So I love that. So your supply is really session to session, because once you deplete your supply, next session it's it's all good again, and you get that bonus item on hand, which is cool. But I get the feeling that you're gonna have like a bunch of stuff on hand for what you needed last session is what's gonna happen a lot of time,
Yeah.
Man, I really wish we would have some rope, and then this time we really need a lot of batteries. But yeah. So as far as other equipment, basically, if it didn't exist in 1979, it doesn't exist now, right? So there's no mobile phones, there's no DVD players, personal computers are very rare, things like that. I love it says the Sony Walkman is only available in Japan. Like that's like one of my favorite lines in the entire book, and I don't know why. What else you got here? So there are no cars on Roosevelt Island. I think rich people might have like a golf cart. That's about it.
Right.
There could be weird stuff in the game like Eldritch Grimoires, and guns can exist, but they draw a lot of attention, probably from people you don't want to be getting attention from, like cops, because they don't like you, because they're cops.
Right.
So yeah. So talk about the bungalows again. You get to choose your bungalow on your first session, and you get to pick one that's got 3 supply, 4 supply, or 5 supply. So which one do you want to look at? 3, 4, or 5?
Oh, let's look at 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone, yeah, go for it.
No, you got it, buddy.
Everyone has their own room. There are 2 indoor baths and an outdoor shower. It's close to the beach and the center of town. There's a VCR in the den and 1 phone on the kitchen wall. What I love about this is it is the nicest bungalow with the smallest supply. Because if you look at 5, everyone's sharing rooms. There's a shared bath. It's a hike to get almost anywhere. There's no phone, and the antenna TV is broken. It is the shittiest one, but you get the most supply. I love the way they did that. I mean, obviously, I would go. I mean, the smart choice is to go 4. right?
Right.
Everyone has their own room. It's a shared bath, but there's an outdoor shower. Like, it's an okay spot with an okay mix supply. But I really like that. If you're like, no, screw it, I want to live in luxury at our bungalow, but we're gonna have shit all for stuff. There's a great piece here for come see our beachside bungalows. It's got this great illustration of a really beautiful bungalow. Dude, I would. There's not a lot I wouldn't do to live in. Have this be my spot, like on a beach, and just live there.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
It's incredible. So another stories from Roseville Beach here. Another one. They don't feel too much. They feel great. Every time I got to them, it was a pleasure to read. Again, they're only one page. It's a short little vibe. It's really great. So getting into the resolution mechanic, which we both, like, I remember like halfway through like reading this, I messaged you and was like, bro, I fucking love this. And then like a couple days later, like, I do too. This is crazy.
It's funny how many dice pool games we've done recently. And how they've all been their own great takes on how to do a dice pool. And here is another really cool one, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So this is how it works, right? This is how it works. So we're getting into investigation and action, right? When investigating, the GM will accurately describe the current situation and what you see. And if you want to know more, describe what and how and ask the GM. And they're going to give, and you're going to do open-ended questions, and they're going to help you out, right? Role play.
Shocking.
Incredible, right? So, action and dice. I will say.
All right, say it.
Should I say it here? I will. What dice do you use?
D6s.
Where does it say that?
Oh, I don't know that it does. I think I reverse engineered it from the tables. So
exactly. So this is the issue. Do you know the only place, because I control F, do you know the only place, there's dice notations in Spark, like D6 and stuff like that. Do you know the only place on the entire book, that tells you that the only dice you're using is D6s?
Where is it?
Wild guess.
GM section?
The back of the book.
Oh, that's
the back of the book. It says for 2 to 6 players equipped with several 6-sided dice and vivid imaginations is the only place in the entire book where they mention that all you're using is D6s.
Oh, that'd be a good detail to throw.
Control F for 6, Control F for D6, all the way through. There's nothing that says you're using this. So even when we get to the action and dice section, it says only risky actions provoke rolls. When you head into danger, knowing what you're facing, you gather a pool of dice and roll. A pool of what dice? You know?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, a big detail to leave out there.
Right? I get it when it's like the tables, it's a D6 table. So, of course, you're just going to roll a D6, right? You're not going to roll a D36 and divide by 6. Like, that's ridiculous. But in this, it literally doesn't say, like, grab a pool of D6s and roll, right? So, anyway, there's a couple sections where I think we jumped over the witch section when you pick words of power. It doesn't tell you. Obviously, we know how to. Like, if you see a D6 a D6 list with D6 lists underneath, you're just gonna roll a 2D6, right? We know that.
Yeah.
But that's not something. That's something you could throw in. Just parentheses roll 2D6. You know, because the troubles have 2D6 written. Mm-hmm. But there's other parts where there's like no dice notation. This is the biggest one. It's action and dice, and it doesn't know what dice to roll. But anyway, when you build a dice pool, select 1 die for being a sleuth. So you start with a D6 right off the bat. Then you add 1 die to the pool for each of the following. And I love this. I love where it's basically like, answer these questions, or if this applies, this is how you build it. So these are the questions. You aren't injured or scared in a way that inhibits what you're doing, right? So you're not trying to run with a broken leg. You have at least 1 relevant background. You have a relevant skill. You have a second relevant skill. This is a golden opportunity. An ally or other NPCs helping you, and the ally is also at risk. And you are acting to protect a housemate, ally, trouble, or comfort from dire consequences. So if any or all of those apply, you get to add a D6 to the pool for every single one of those.
It's a great list. I love this is a golden opportunity one, because it's just such an openly interpreted narrative. Benchmark. I think it's a really good one. Because I think this is a narrative game, you know?
It is. Oh, it's a narrative. It's so weird. But how many times have you been in an adventure and you're like, oh, this is literally this.
Yes.
This is fucking great. Like, if I do this, this is perfect. Like, I need to jump over this, but I have this thing. So if I just do it, we're golden. It's perfect. I really, really love that a lot. I want to show off this 2-page spread real quick because I do love this. Again, shout out Die. It's this skull behind this roulette wheel. And I dig it. I like it a lot. So continuing with the how the game works. So we've already said you pool a pool of D6s, answering those questions. It says you begin by telling the GM what you want to do and what you're trying to accomplish, right? And then they will tell you if it's possible, confirm what you're doing. So like, hey, so you're doing this. This is what you want to do, right? And they're like, yes. And then they will tell you if you need to roll. I love that. Just tell me what you want to do and I'll tell you if you need to roll. I can't tell you, one of my biggest pet peeves at the table is someone going like, okay, so can I roll perception for that? And I'm like, God. It's role playing, bro. It's role playing. It's not a board game. Just tell me what you want to do. Guess what? Yeah, you see shit, right? If so, the team will tell you, right, which of the following tables to roll on based on what kinds of risks you're taking with the action. So there's some here, and then I'm going to explain, then come back to it. So there's goal, injured, scared, clue, and trouble. Okay? So it says if the GM tells you there are more risks than you have dice for, you might want to adjust your plan. So here it says, roll your dice pool and choose which of the individual dice to assign to the risks you are taking. For each one, check your assigned result against the appropriate table below to see what the outcome is. If you don't have enough so this is one typo. There's a missing period right here. Roll against the appropriate table below to see what the outcome is. Missing period. If you don't have enough dice for all of the assigned risks, treat any risks with no die as a result of one instead. If the results are especially dire, you can roll on the trouble die. So basically, this is how it works. You have goal, injured, scared, clue, and potentially trouble. So the GM says, you say, I want to do this thing, right? And you go, I pulled my pool together, one for sleuth, and let's say you got 3 more for answering some questions. So you have a skill, you have a second skill and a background, right? Then there's goal, injured, scared, and clue. So you have 4 dice, right? So you get to assign those. And if I say you're risking something, you're risking an injury, you're risking being scared, right? That's 2 risks. Okay. So you must put a die on injured and a die on scared, right? And then you have 2 more. So you can do, and then you're always trying to succeed at the goal. So you always have to put a dice on goal. So that's 3. So since you have a 4th die, you can be like, okay, I want a clue too. So you roll your 4d6s and you assign 1 of each to those 4 things. And then you go to the table and read what those are. It's so good.
Yeah, this is a great, very, very brilliant mechanic.
I really like it. We'll get to the tables in a second. The trouble is really interesting too, because trouble is an option. As I said, if the results are especially dire, you can roll a trouble die. So that's basically, if the GM says, if you say like, I really need to succeed, and your roll sucks, the GM can say, so after you roll, the GM may let you roll a trouble die. This is a bonus die you can roll if the original roll has too few high numbers, but it will mean a trouble shows up. Actively shows up. An ally, comfort, or Roseville Beach resident is now in danger. So why don't you pick, you want to pick like 1 or 2, roll a d6 and let's see what happens. Let's do gold and injured. Just roll 2d6.
Okay, I rolled a 5 and a 1. So 5 for goal and 1 for injured. So the goal 5, 4 to 5, you make progress on your goal, but it's taking longer than you thought. Or you succeed with an unforeseen consequence, possibly including injuries or scares. And then I rolled a 1 on the, what was the other table we're doing? Injured?
Injured, yeah.
Yeah. You, an ally or a housemate, is injured. If someone was assisting you, they also suffer an injury.
Boom, there you go.
Perfect.
So each of the tables, they are either a 3-4 table, as in like 3 minus or 4 plus. There's a 4 minus or 5 plus for scared. The trouble die is 1, 2, 3, and then 4 plus, and then the goals are a 3 minus, 4 to 5, and a 6 plus. So varying things for each of the tables, but it explains at the top of each table too. So like for gold, it literally says, like, it explains it. Every roll risks failure. Assign one of the dice you roll to the goal. And then injury, to avoid injury or physical harm as part of your action, assign one of the dice you roll to injury. Like, it's so good. It's so interesting. And also because we talked about this before, this is a story game that still uses really fun, like, non-story game mechanics, as in the dice pool, the rolls, like the mixed success, stuff like that. But it's so much more open. Like, one of the things that we've talked about a bunch with, like, especially PBTA games, is, to me, it's so scaffolded narratively that Absolutely. I genuinely feel like we're playing like a group choose your own adventure. Like, basically, like, oh, I rolled a 7, so let me check my list, and it tells me exactly what happens. This feels so much more narratively open with everything that you're trying to do, especially because you get to pick, like, as many successes or as many dice as you get to roll, you can put to risk the things. So you can have a goal and injury and scared and clue, and so much more can come out of each one. It's so interesting.
Like you said, I love the open-ended narrative nature of, like, the consequences of rolling in this game. It's so cool. Yeah, I love the idea of narrative games, but like you said, like, a lot of the stuff that's like PBTA-esque, I'm always like, I don't want all of this. This is what I want. This is exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I just feel too constrained by just the level of scaffolding that so many of those games have.
I don't want a pick list. Even like, as a person running the game, I don't want a pick list. I want to naturally improvise on what's happening, like, given the context of the situation.
Exactly. So, like,
this
when
game
you look
sucks, bro.
Yeah, it does. But, like, when you look at scared, this is the difference, all right? There's the success or failure, basically. 5+, you succeed without frightening yourself, your housemates, or your allies, and 4-, you and anyone assisting you is scared. That's it. But you had to roll. You had to build your dice pool to get the roll. You had to assign the roll to it, and then you get to pick one. And it basically says you're scared or you're not, right? And that is all I want to know. Right? That's what I'm rolling for. But I don't have a list of now, like, these are all the way. This is the exact reason that you're scared.
5 options you can pick from for your fun, open-ended narrative game. It's like,
I just think that these are so clever and so interesting. And the great thing is this is so fucking hackable because, like, basically these are the risks that you suffer. So if you turn this into any other game, these work, but there could be so many other options for risks that you could have to roll against. And to keep it as narratively open as these while still getting to roll for it, which is I don't know, it's so clever. I really love it. And then the trouble die, we'll go over that and then we'll move on from here. But it says if you need an extra die to roll, you can opt to risk trouble in addition to the other risks on this action. Add 1 die to your pool, but you'll have to assign a die to the trouble table in addition to other risks. I will say that is a little bit counter to what's previously written. So when you actually go into the trouble section, it says after you roll the GMA, let you roll a trouble die. But if you actually go to the trouble die table, it says add it to the pool before you roll. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. Yeah. But on 4+, it says one of your troubles will show up this session, etc., etc. On 2-3, it says one of your troubles hinders your investigation or escalates problems. And then on 1, it says an ally, comfort, or trouble is in immediate trouble and something, or is doing something that puts others in trouble. So basically, it's like it's happening right now. It's happening, or it's going to happen at some point. And I love that. Yeah, but at some point, trouble will happen, and it will happen now. Getting assistance works like basically in a game. People can help you, but if they do, and you get fucked, they get fucked too. And that's what it comes down to. I do like the difference here, though. With allies or NPCs, they can add 1 dice, but if it's a housemate, they can add 2 dice. I like that the difference, like, actual characters are more important than NPCs, and I like that. Because they're NPCs, right?
Right. Yeah. They're not real.
Now we get to using magic. So we skipped over magic a lot in the Witch and the Stranger.
And the Familiar.
And the Familiar. So we're going to talk about magic now, because magic does exist in this game. Yeah. And how does magic work?
So the first thing in bold, magic is almost always risky. I'll just go ahead and read the section. It's pretty short. When you work any magic that has any meaningful effect on events or on the world, you roll. Magic rolls work the same way as other action rolls, but you use the table below to build your dice pool instead, getting 1 die for each of the following. Several things on here. A couple of them. Your origin story is the witch, familiar, or stranger. You have the sorcery skill. You draw on a word of power to cast your spell. 1 for each of the word of powers employed. There's quite a list here, actually.
Did I write down how many? No, I don't think I wrote down how many.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh,
9,
10.
10.
I did.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, you did.
Use its own dice pool list.
You did write it down. The
Yeah.
notes are in front of me right now. Yeah.
I just really like that it literally uses its own dice pool selection list, which is really fantastic.
So
yeah.
I also like the one that says you have a spellbook, grimoire, or similar arcane source to guide your casting, because if you're a witch trying to cast and one of the other players is a familiar, they actually have a chance to know where you can find things like that to aid you in casting. A cool little tie back into other characters working together. So all magic risks becoming scared. Intending harm risks an injury, and you must assign a die to control. And you have an interesting note on this. Why don't you go ahead and tell us your note?
Yeah, so control is basically just another risk. Like I said, you can add risks to the list, and I love that, right? But the roll table says result of magic, which I think is confusing because clearly this is supposed to be like the risk table. So I don't know why it says result of magic instead of just like control table, right? Because they would make it more sense because it says you must assign 1 die to control, but it never lists control anywhere else. But clearly the table is for control. So it says roll and then result of magic. There's just no reason it's not just like trouble was like goal or thing, whatever, that it just doesn't say control. It would make a lot more sense.
It would. I think it's interesting that like you can use magic. Again, this kind of really lends into that how cool the mechanics of this work, because you can still assign dice like you normally would. You just have an extra table you must assign a die to. But if you have enough, you could get a clue through your magic, or whatever you intend to happen. Like it still carries that very open-ended, like we're telling a story together format. Yeah. And as like a consummate improviser, I would fuck with this so hard.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like. I mean, and that's one of the things I don't like potentially about, and we're just going to beat up PBTA a little bit here, and that's not all of them.
It's not all of them,
but it's a lot of them. But we've said this before. There's 500 PBTA games out there, and 4 of them are good, right?
Patchwork Worlds.
Yeah, and Obachan Panic. As the GM, I want to feel like a player too. And with PBTA, I feel like it's mostly corralling. It's not really playing. But when there's improv like this, where you have to like make it up as you go too, because that's what the players do the whole time anyway. So why isn't the GM also doing that? It makes me feel more like a player, more like I'm actually playing the game with my friends. I don't want to feel
I don't know what's going to happen either.
I don't want to feel like a director. I don't want to feel like the maestro or whatever. I don't want to be like pulling the strings and whatever. Like I want to be playing with the way that like with my friends, and when I get the opportunity to improv while I'm GMing, that makes me feel this way. But the control table, we should definitely talk about read through some of these.
Result of magic. So on a 5+, you do not lose control of your magic working, right? 2 to 4, your magic is beyond your control. The GM will say how you lose control of the power. Treat dice on the scared and injured tables as 1s. Though the participants in the working can determine which of them are scared or injured based on the effects. Alternatively, there could merely be significant property damage. Love that option. Think that's a great option. And on a 1, the energies, spirits, or visions you summon are beyond your control. The GM may move dice from other tables to the injured and scared table as they see fit, or treat them as 1s. And determine who is affected by each injury and scare. Property may also be damaged, often very badly.
Hey, listen, if you want the cops to show up, just start fucking with property, right? Because that's what's important.
Fuck with
funny.
The car. Cheese it.
Yeah, funny. The very next giant black box under what I just said.
Why don't you tell us about calling the authorities, right?
Yeah, calling the authorities. The Manilyn County Police used to regularly conduct gay baiting and queer bashing raids in Roseville Beach. They resent the court orders that prevent them from continuing to do so, and residents have very good reason to distrust them. If anyone calls the police, the best possible result is that the police ignore the call. You know, once again, a cab.
Dude, fuck the cops. If you look at any era of policing, it's just them picking a group of minorities to just beat, or multiple groups, just beat the fuck out of for no reason. It's like, dude,
yeah,
fuck the cops, bro.
Every aspect of it. You know, the only thing worse than cops is cop unions.
Oh my god.
Police,
They're
I'll tell you right
workers.
now.
Why are they fucking unionized?
Police is not labor. Police is not labor, because labor does not break labor, right? And what is the first time that there's a strike, who shows up to fucking bust kneecaps? It's fucking cops. Guess what? You don't get fucking unions. And it's all corrupt bullshit anyway. Moving on. Injured, scared, and out of action is what's coming up next. So we're talking about injured and scared. So injured, scared, and out of action. Injuries and scares are two different ways, basically, that you can get knocked out of action, which we'll get to in a second. So injuries are physical conditions that the GM names as they happen. So there's no list here, right? So and again, I love this. It's not, here's a list of like, you have a broken bone, or you have this, or you have that. It's literally like, you risked injury, you got an injury, and based on that injury, the GM will tell you what it is, right? You did sprain your wrist. You did get a slash. You have to go get stitches or something. I love that. It says winded, broken arm, sprained ankle, exhausted. And then scared. When you're scared, something has emotionally frightened or shaken you in some way that's outside of what you normally deal with. And like injuries, the GM is going to tell you what that thing is, right? And then out of action means that whenever you have 3 injuries or scares, it takes you out of the action until you get help or until the next session. You can get back into the action at 2 or less. So if you're at 3, you're out. But if you can just heal 1, you can get back in the action, but you're at risk for being knocked out pretty quickly. So it says recovering from injuries and spooks. So recovering from injury, it basically says they recover as is reasonable, right? Recovering from an injury depends on the nature of the condition. Some, like winded, just require time. Exhausted requires food. Like a broken ankle requires like a cast. Like, I like that it's basically just like, treat an injury like you would treat a fucking injury. You don't need a week of downtime, right? I love that. A lot of this game is literally just sounds reasonable, right? I'm like, yep, that works. You can use a first aid kit to remove or mitigate injuries, which is usually not risky, but could be risky in like a dire situation or under duress or something like that. And it says recovery from spooks. I don't know why they jumped to the term spooks here instead of just scares. I don't know if it was meant to be what a group of scares is called, or if it was just like a term, oh, spooks or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would have probably just stuck with scares here so that there's like consistency, because for a second I was like, did I miss something about spooks? Mm-hmm. So I probably would have just said recovery from scares, because it literally says recovering from scared sometimes just requires a little time. So for instance, if you have the jitters, you just need to calm down. The best option is to like find an ally or housemate, talk it out, and you'll work through it. You can also spend time with one of your comforts or something like that, and that'll help you, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't usually involve a roll unless things are under duress. The next we get to is downtime and advancement. This is really cool. So at the start of the session, so when the session ends, and then you start the next session. Each player will summarize what they've been up to since the last mystery ended, and each player chooses one of the following. You can choose getting comfort. So it says, say how, and then you get to remove 1 spook. Again, I don't know why they randomly went to spook for these 2 pages, because it goes back to scares later. I don't know. It's like interchanged numerous times throughout this. And then, as I said, when we get to the GM section, it never says spook again. It just always talks about scares. So I think just consistently going with scares here would be better than jumping to spook for this one, like 2-page spread, and then not really talking about it again. Then there's getting medical attention. It says you spend some time at Roseville. I love this. This is really interesting too. You spend some time at Roseville Care Center for minor injuries, or Manilyn County Hospital for major ones. You can remove a minor injury completely or convert a major injury to a minor injury. So like a sprained shoulder, so just your arm is stiff or whatever, at the Roseville Care Center. If you went to mainland, okay, now that says mainline, but it says mainland so many other times. And mainline makes sense to me because if you lived in the Philadelphia area, you know what the fuck the main line is. I'm not going to explain it. But it says mainland almost everywhere, but I kept wanting to say mainline, but it does say if you went to Mainline County right here. What does it say on the character sheet? Because that's mainline, right? No, it says St. Judy's Medical Center. St. Jude's is also down there in the Philadelphia area, so that's interesting. So if you went to Mainline County Hospital, make a supply check. So bring in supply checks back into a base with your injuries, and I really love that. If you fail, your lost income and medical expenses mean you haven't been able to contribute to the bungalow. Your house's supply goes down by 1 for just this session. So the way that you lose money by having to spend money on your medical supplies is by having to go to the nice big hospital for a major injury. I love that. It's very interesting.
It's very funny. It's a good way to deal with that.
Yeah, you can bond with a housemate. So 2 characters can agree to use their downtime to bond with each other. So you grow a bond with a housemate, and then you can remove a scar or learn a skill or word of power from the other person. So if you have a skill that I want and I have a skill that you want, we can bond and each learn each other's skill, which is so clever. I really love that. You can make a new friend, which gains another ally. You can do training, which means you can train a skill that would have helped in a previous session, or gain a new skill on your job list, either or. So it doesn't have to be on your job list if you can say why you're training it based on you not having it last session, which I think is really, really clever. Like, man, I just wish I was a better drawer or something like that. So you can learn illustration.
That reminds me of, what game is it where if you fail the skill check later on, you can be good? I think
Troika does it.
It's not. Oh, that was the one I was thinking. I thought...
There's a couple that are like that, though, where like if you fail, you can mark, and if you fail enough times, you can learn it.
Yeah,
which is really interesting. Like you succeed in the future by failing, or advance by failing, which is neat.
Love that.
Or you can just train one that's on your job list, which is cool. So we have another stories from Roseville Beach, and then we're going to get into guest stars. These are really interesting, and there's a fuckload of them. So guest stars are for drop-in players. So they're not housemates.
This is such a great idea, by the way. This is an amazing idea.
It's incredible. So they're not housemates, but they're more than allies. They have a supply rating. They might have some special equipment and can be tweaked to fit. So they're basically like super NPCs, right? But it's for drop-in players. Like if you just have a friend that wants to come in for one session to see how it works, boom, you just give them a guest star. They don't need to make a whole character. I love this. It's so clever. There's 23 of them. 23 of these. Let me give you the list. We got the monster suit actor, the homesick expatriate, the independent journalist, the haunted ice cream vendor, the poet who sees backwards. I will say, real quick, little note here. This book is incredibly well bookmarked. But when you get down to the... the guest stars section, 21 of the guest stars are bookmarked. 2 of them are missing. The haunted ice cream vendor and the poet who sees backwards, there's a whole page that's not bookmarked here. Because I counted what was in here, but then I counted on the page and I was like, there's 23, but there's only 21 bookmarks. So there's just 2 bookmarks missing. What else we got here? We got the oblivious grandma. I would play. That's the one. That's it right there. There's the microcomputer nerd, the hippie artist troupe, the astronaut, the lousy punk, the soul of the queer community, the hard-boiled private detective, the Bronze Beach pro, definitely not an occultist, the gadget geek disaster girl, the cryptid, the awakened statue, the treasure hoarder, the fate-marked graduate student, the lost sailor, the psychic, the twinned man, and the high school drama coach. Pick one. What are you doing?
What am I doing? Which one am I picking?
Yeah, just pick one.
God, the poet that sees backwards.
The poet that sees backwards. I do want to throw this into a nice little 2-page spread because they do have, a lot of them have these like really great art pieces as we go through. Like,
I love
really great.
I started as a bottom, but now I top art piece. Great.
Which page is this?
Oh, who knows really? 67?
Oh, oh, that's funny. Yeah, because a lot of the art pieces have these little like quote pieces on them, like the "Hey Ginny, what are you rebelling against?" And it's like, "What do you got?" Like that's a funny one. And then the naked dude that says, "I've worked too hard on this body to keep it under wraps." Um,
I feel
but
that.
which one? Yeah, right. Which one did you pick again?
The Poet Who Sees Backwards. I just
All
think
right,
it's a fantastic name title.
go for it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. The Poet That Sees Backwards. Rich grandparents paid for your poetry degree, but you've been struggling ever since to compose your masterwork, or to write it at all, for that matter. You get by with help from your trust fund, various gigs as a writing instructor, and sometimes the peculiar visions of the past that come to you in dreams. One such vision, as well as a serendipitous gig teaching a writing your sexuality workshop, has brought you to Roseville Beach. Might you discover a long lost treasure, an age old mystery, or even some much needed inspiration for a new poem? Your age is 30 plus 1d6, so anywhere between 31 and 36. You have a 4 supply rating. Your backgrounds, misunderstood literary genius, accidental historian. Your skills are poetry, crossword puzzles, public speaking, social studies, trivia, and then special abilities. When you sleep, you dream of the past, be it a scene from the ancient past or something that happened yesterday. It tends to be weirdly pertinent to your current situation.
It's so good. It's so good. And a lot of these were written by, I don't think there's like a lot of different writers for these. So they're fantastic. And again, like I said, there's 23 of them, which is incredible selection. So that's basically the core rules of the game. It's really like, if you actually look at the actual rules of the game, it's going to fit on like 4 to 6 pages, right?
Yeah.
And then character and stuff like that, but the actual dice mechanics and things like that. The next we're going to get into, we're going to cruise through the GM section, and then we'll switch over to the review. So the Game Master's Book of Secrets. So this is number 2. So once again, a nice 2-page spread here of this. I mean, obviously pulp scene, but it's interesting. And then we're going to get into how to run Roseville Beach. So for the most part, like I said, we're going to cruise this and not go too deeply into it. But so the first section is starting a mystery. So there are 4 parts to this. There's the context, which is at the start of a session, you paint a picture of what's going on. There's the event, which means at some point the housemates become aware that something is wrong. There is what really happened. So before the session, the GM decides what really happened, and then who's involved. You identify who might have seen, heard, or suspected something. So I gave 1 lines to that are actually paragraphs for each of these, and they're great. It is good instruction for doing it. It's pretty straightforward. Like, pick a mystery, pick who saw it, and do whatever. But it's still nice information, because I think a lot of people, especially people that are used to adventure games, running a mystery is going to be a little bit different. So I do like that this is in here. There's interacting with NPCs. It's interacting with NPCs. There is a 2d6, a very classic disposition table,
Always
2
good.
through 12s. Yeah, 2 to 3 actively distrust or dislike the housemates, and 11 to 12 is friendly and interested in whatever the housemates are doing. And then there's a spread in between. There is a section here for giving clues. It basically says that most clues don't require any risk. They can usually be found by looking and asking around. If they do have risk, they gain access to the information when they overcome the risk, because don't forget, you can always put a die on the clue risk thing and be able to get our risk from that. There is a bonus clue section here. So it says, in one of these parts, it says, however, sometimes players make a roll and place it on the clues table. This gives him access to additional clues. The bonus clues might include spotting unexpected people, unusual places, overhearing a snippet, whatever. There is a D6 table here of bonus clues. Why don't you roll 1d6 for me?
I will. 1.
All right.
A distinctive, recognizable, and physical item that the housemates can use to identify someone or something, a bite mark, footprint, residue, or trail.
I like this list. It's a great little list because listen, improv is great, but sometimes your brain ain't working great. It's nice to have.
So true.
Yeah, it's nice to have some of these, even if it's just inspiration. Even if you look at this list and go, okay, all right, and then make up your own real quick. It's great. It's great. Perfect spot in the GM section. Mm-hmm. There's a section here called Special, and this is one reason I want to talk about the monolith. It says, when something supernatural occurs, it draws the strange bronze monoliths, and sometimes they're visible. No one seems to know why. See Rose Island monoliths in Chapter 7. Interesting. So it comes up again and again. There's a section here which is like an example of play, which is really interesting. It's not marked as an example of play. I thought it was special section for a little bit, but it's not. It's really just an example of play, which is great to have. We get into confrontations and conflicts. So basically it says if a goal would cause a long-term suffering or injury to an opponent, the players risk taking a scare. Again, it says scare again, not spook, which is spook is only used on that weird two-page spread. Pages. Yeah, it's literally just on that two-page spread. They talk about spooks and then go back to using scares for the rest of the book. I don't know if maybe it was going to be spook at some point and they just didn't fix all of them. But I would definitely just stick with scare. It's just easy. It makes a lot more sense. There's conscience and consequences. It basically says if a goal would cause I jumped ahead. So confrontations and conflicts is what I meant to go over. So basically it says most bad guys can take 3 conditions before defeat: injuries, scares, just like housemates, but they can't be. But they can be tweaked in the fiction, right? So if the example here is if a necromancer is on top of like a lighthouse and you push them off and like the first go, they just fucking die. Like you don't need to do all 3 for that, right? Keep it to the fiction.
You gotta roll to make sure that fall really killed them.
But generally, 3 before they're out, and that works. And then it's conscience and consequences, where it says you would risk a scare for long-term harm of an enemy or a bad guy or whoever. Right. There's a section here for escalations. It basically says if you do have a bad guy, right, and they are going to take 3 before they get knocked out, every time they take 1, they escalate the situation. And there's a D6 table here for escalations. Why don't you roll D6?
5. 5. Threaten a housemate with one of their own troubles.
There you go. There's other ones. It's like attempting to harm or somebody, calling out with a piercing wail or shriek or scream that acts as an injury. It's basically the way that the bad guys fight back, because the one is literally like cause harm. So like there you go. There's a whole section here on romance and relationships, which is interesting, and it basically says like it happens. Romance doesn't mean flirting. It doesn't mean, I think we'll get into seduction later. It means actual intimate relationships with another character, which obviously you want to talk about before the game starts in the consent sheets and the calibration and everything like that. And it says Roseville Beach is a place where it's safe for queer people to form friendships, partnerships, and romances, and the characters can explore that if they want to, right? It says, don't roll for romance. Seduction is not romance. If you're trying to get a clue, you can roll risky to try to seduce somebody, but that is not romance. Basically, RP your romance. Like, what is it? I really like the way that they said this. And they're working to get over the bullshit that keeps them from really connecting. Internal issues like distrust, confusion, insecurity, prejudices, and a history of bad relationships, and external issues like dark pacts, demanding supernatural patrons, curses, or rival commitment. So if you're open to romance and you decide to do all of those things, that's the kind of bullshit that you're RPing through in order to develop a relationship. You're not rolling to be like, oh, we got +1 relationship, you know?
I love the rubber banding between like internal struggles and like past experiences to like, magic and necromancers, and it's like that's it.
It's a thing, you know. I mean, it's the thing
that's what this game is. So yeah,
it's the thing that's going to get in your way, you know, because I can imagine the stress that's going to put on a relationship, you know. There's a section on asexual and aromantic relationships. It says they're here. They exist. You can do them. If you just want like a deep friendship, if you want like a non-sexual partnership, you can still develop those bonds just the same way you do with other romances. Go for it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
There's There's a meet cute table. It's a 2d6. Roseville Beach doesn't have a romance roll. If a player expresses interest in connecting with an NPC you know little about, do a 2d6 meet cute roll. We both have to do one. We both have to do one.
Yeah, I rolled a 4. The NPC is interested but hiding something. They're aware of some unexplained events, but are primarily worried about something scary from their own past that's on its way to Roseville Beach even now.
Oh. I rolled 3 so many times. All right, I got a 7. It says the NPC is interested, but a little wary of anyone who comes on too strong. They have some useful mundane skills, but are oblivious to Rose Island's supernatural happenings, and they're suspicious of anyone who mentioned them. So you like them, but you got to keep what you got to keep saving the day on the DL.
Keep the weird side under wraps for the for beginning. Yeah,
right. You got to keep the mask on. Romances between PCs. If 2 housemates decide to pursue an in-character romance, you have less work to do. They're inevitably going to put themselves in situations, etc., etc. Romance, it happens. There's a whole section here about calling the police. Basically, a cab, right? There's an optional rule here.
You didn't even put that in the notes.
Oh, my notes literally say calling the police, space down, 1, period, a cab. That's all I wrote. There's an optional rule here for quick rolls, which I thought was really interesting. Basically, it says if you're not sure of the outcome, you can just roll a die for it. And you can just do a quick roll, either 1 or 2 dice, depending on what's going on. It says occasionally there may be a situation where the players to try to do something desperate, and you can have them roll 2 dice and choose the lowest result. But there is a roll result here thing. So basically 1 to 2 things go poorly, 3 to 4 is a mix, and 5 to 6 things go well. Pretty standard D6, mixed success table.
Good to have here. Good little side option to have in the back pocket.
Yeah. There's examples here, things to do. Perception, lore, cantrips, fate, where you're like, might not necessarily be super risky, but the outcome is like you're not quite sure of. So you can have them just roll a roll to kind of give you a lot of games do this. I know fate is listed here, but a lot of games will do like a fate roll where it's like roll 1d6. It goes good for you with 3 or less or 4 or more. So it's their little version of it. And then there's a bunch of stuff here. Another story from Roseville Beach, another great story. And then stuff we're not going to go over because there's a lot of cool info and just buy the fucking game. So Shadows of Rose Island contains some secret information about Rose Island. It's got like details about 3 Roseville Island locations. Buy the book for all that cool secret information. So we're going to scroll through that. And then we're going to get to a section...
Everyone close your eyes. You can't see any of this.
Close your eyes. You can't see any of this. Then there's a section on exploring Rose Island. It's 4 interesting points of interest. Guess what? Guess what you got to do to read those? Buy the fucking book.
Or just pause the screen right there.
Pause the screen as I scroll very quickly. Then there's a whole section here on the sorcerers of Rose Island. There's basically 6 NPCs. I guess 7, Julian and Charlotte, and then there's another double at the end. But it's a bunch of really great info for these like sorcerers or magic users that are on Rose Island. So there's 7, I think there's like 5, but 2 of them are pairs. And there you go. And then we get to the let's get a roll, get a whole roller out. You're gonna create an NPC real quick as we run through this, and then that'll be the end for us. So creating NPCs, there's a D20 first and last name. So roll me 2 D20s.
No, we'll go with my opening name was Loretta Green.
Loretta Green.
That's where I got this from. So
yeah, and then there is a D20 for traits. So one of those.
I rolled a 10. Endless war stories.
Loretta Green and her endless war stories. Then we're going to go to a D20 table for what they want. What does Loretta Green want with her endless war stories?
3, a night of passion with a spirit or other entity. Hell yeah, Loretta, you're a freak.
Hey, but my head immediately went was lost a spouse in the war. She's trying to have one last night with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I love that.
Yeah. D20 connection to the mystery.
9. It has a conspiracy theory that's almost right.
There you go. The worst kind of right. Almost. Then you got a D10 table of what they want, why they want to help the housemates.
It is 2. Use to do what the PCs are doing. Still do what they can.
Great. That's a great kind of NPC. Then there's a D10 table of why they don't want to help the housemates.
5, hiding from something and don't want to attract attention. Going really well so far. Really,
yeah, I'm trying to bang a
character.
ghost.
Yeah.
And D10 of how they could help the housemates or throw them off.
1, understands the symbols or incantations.
Boom. There we go. And that is an NPC. Then you get the stories from Roseville Beach. And then we immediately jump into a bunch of mysteries. So there are, what did I say? Besides buy the fucking book. It's a list of adventures from people like friend of the show, Max Lander wrote one. So Richard Ruane does one, Max Lander does one. There's a bunch. There's The Haunting of Flora Bly, Girls Before Swine, Sweet on Ginny, The House in the Woods, Ravenous Rave. And then you have the whole one that's Weird Mysteries and Strange Events in the back. And that is Moonlight on Roseville Beach. Because guess what? We don't read adventures here. And we're not going to give you all we're not going to give you the entire book, because guess what you got to do to get that?
Yeah, buy it. Buy
the fucking book. And then, once again, on the back of the book, you get the only mention of ever just using 6-sided dice on the back of the book. So that's the game. So let's hop over to review scores. Again, for those that don't know what we do here on the show, we do quantify our terrible opinions with numbers, right? We assign a set of numbers to 5 different metrics, each worth up to 10 points for a max of 50 points. We have art and layout, which is the visuals of the book. It's the quality, quantity, and use of art in the book, and the visual layout style of the book. There's usability, which means things like, it's actually using the book either physically or digitally, bookmarks, hyperlinks, making the PDF easy to navigate, and physically, it's just in general, it's having things that we think are in the correct order, making the information easily readable and accessible, and once again, just usable at the table. A bookmark in the book doesn't hurt. Rule set, if it's an original rule set, do we like it? Do we think it's good? If it's an adapted rule set, how well is it adapted? Originality is just the definition of that word, like what is original about the game, whether it's in rules and art and anything, setting, whatever. And then value is bang for your buck. It's not just the cost of the game, even though that is a big part of it. It's what more you get with the game, what else is out there, third-party licenses, apps, whatever the fuck exists out there. It's bang for your buck. If you spend X amount of dollars, do you get a good value for it? So art and layout.
Well, it's definitely going to take a hit here being made by our favorite layout artist.
Yeah, one of our Dai is one easily up there. Yeah, I would say a day. Top 2. I think Dai Sugars and Guilherme Gontijo are, in my opinion, the 2 best TTRPG layout people out there right now.
Absolutely.
And that is not denigrating anybody out there. There's a lot of fantastic people that do stuff. Luna, Gene Verne, like a lot of really fantastic people. I just personally really love the way that Dai does stuff in a very clean way, and Gontijo does stuff in a very super interesting, kind of sometimes out there creative way. They both have incredibly strong strengths and are way up there, probably my 2 favorites. Strong strengths, not weak strengths. Brain braiding. So art and layout, what are your thoughts?
God, this is a good looking fucking book, dude.
It's so good.
It's
so
the
good.
layout's great. I mean, even the small thing like having the extra page so that when I pull it up in Acrobat right here, I can switch from 2-page to 1-page view. I'm like, what a fucking minor detail that only we would care about, that makes it so much easier to parse through this. And also to view it as a spread when I want to see the full spread, and to not when I don't. The art that they got for this is fantastic. It really sells the kind of vibe of it. I mean, I think to their own point, it is unfortunate there's no art from that time period that really shows any people of color.
Literally all just skinny white people.
But that's a product of its time and not the fault of these
which is addressed.
Yeah, which is addressed, and I think it's great.
But even the art listed has the art index, which I think is fucking fantastic.
Yes, the art index is very cool. I'm thinking this is it's so fucking good.
I'm just letting you know that I'm thinking high. So you shoot for the stars if you want.
9, an 8,
9 easy.
Okay,
I'm thinking 9 easy for this. This is art punk, in the same way that you would look at like Merkborg or anything from Gabriel Quiroga, but using queer pulp art. Like
Yeah.
every page is saturated with it. The page textures on the back, even like the stuff that we didn't even talk about too much, which is like all the little quotes that are written on so many of the pieces of art are part of it too. Just the way that so much of it is built into the spreads as well. Like art is a central aspect of the entire experience of this. One of the aspects, and I think it's incredible. Like it really pulls you into the vibe. It really helps set the tone for like a lot of the things you're reading at the time. I think it's stunning. It's perfect. It's gorgeous. Like this is fucking fantastic. I think this is an easy 9 as far as I'm concerned for art and layout. I'm glad you agree. And again, that's just talking about the art. The layout too, incredibly readable. Great
Yes.
use of fonts without going fucking crazy with it. Like even just on the character creation page, that like pink font that like pops up on it. Like it's they did such a fantastic job. The ads throughout it too are really great. I don't know. The character sheet, I think also, like, even if it was an 8, as soon as I saw the character sheet, it would be an I. Because the character sheet is one of my favorite character sheets.
I do really
it
like
so
the character
hard.
sheet.
Yeah.
Also, like, we talked previously about character sheets that like lean too heavy into art to where they weren't very useful as character sheets. But this one's such a great, it's still incredibly useful as a character sheet. And it's also very art heavy. It's a hard balance to strike well.
Yeah, and again, it's a fucking folder. I love that the folder literally comes up, but like you just said, it's super artsy. It obviously looks very much like pieces of paper, but there's so much room on each one, right? There's sections for everything to do things in, and it's such a good looking character sheet. So easy 9, yeah. Usability.
So it's gonna take some hits here. It does have a hyperlinked table of contents. It does have plenty of bookmarks. I guess it's not gonna take like hits here, but it's divided up into sections where all the player facing stuff is player facing, all the GM stuff is GM facing. Like it doesn't intermix. I will say it does not mention what dice you use except on the back.
Yep.
There is a section that starts referring to scares as spooks, but only really in one short section. There there's a few typos in this as well.
Oh yeah, speaking of that, I did forget to mention one, so I wanted to go back and just point that out. If we go to where's the conflicts one? Where it talks about like consequences and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I closed the PDF honestly, but
there's a section I did want to point it out, and it's so bookmarked, but I'm lost on the section. Keep going and I'll find it.
I think that was really the most of my like notes on usability. I mean, it has a character sheet which adds to usability. It's a good character sheet which you can actually use and is not just there for show like some other packs of character sheets I've gotten for other games. Yeah, I think I'm thinking it's probably still really good, when it comes to usability. I'm hovering around like a 7-ish,
Yeah. I want to point this out real quick. In the conflicts and consequences section, down in the bottom paragraph, it says opponents in a conflict with the housemates, whether physical or verbal, don't act on their own. The damage or scare the PCs when they can't. I believe that's supposed to be they damage or scare the PCs when they can't place high on the injured scale tables. So I think there's like 3 or 4. Not big. Again, we're being fucking pedantic as fuck. We are
often pedantic. So,
but here's the thing. You know what? If we point it out, then at least now the author knows that there's a typo there. If they ever release it again, they can go, let me fix that typo. But and that's why we do it more than anything. It's not to be like, haha, we found one. It's supposed to be like, hey, just so you know, there's you're missing a Y there.
Yeah, we're dumbass nobodies. Don't take us too seriously.
Yeah, seriously. What hits do you think? I mean, yes, I think the dice thing is weird. I think the spook thing is weird. I don't think it takes massive hits for me though, but I mean, it's so bookmarked. I can only imagine, I'm guessing here, and I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt that it's screen rated to fuck because that's what Die does. One of the things they do for a living. Like you just said, the 3 specific sections, the breakdown of everything. I mean, where you think it's really good?
I do think it's really good. I think not letting me know
what dice
we're using is the biggest possible hit it could take from you. The other stuff, I'm like, you could burn all the rest of my complaints. They are meaningless. Yeah. But like that one, I'm like, that's fucking glaring, you know.
And like I do understand that there's one section that's like, hey, if you're a beginner, go read something else. But there is a difference between that and being like, at no point during the rules text are we ever going to tell you that you're just using D6s, right?
Unless we somehow totally fucking missed it, both of us.
I mean, I controlled F, the number 6. I controlled F, D6. I controlled F6, the word 6, and never saw it anywhere. So yes, we might be complete fucking dumbasses and completely missed it. And I hope someone goes, hey, actually, dumbass, is right here. And I'll go, you know what? Damn, you're right. But I do think it missed it. And I do think there's a couple other parts where it talks about like dice and using dice that I understood how it was supposed to be used, but you might not necessarily know. It says like pick a word of power. Yeah. And it gives you like a D6 and then like 6s for each, but it never says like roll a D6 to pick and then roll another D6 to choose. So things like that. So yeah, I think about a 7 is probably good for this.
Cool.
Because I think that it's really like it's a higher number that knocks down because of a couple things. It's not a low number that bumps up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With a couple of those fixes, I think it'd be easy pushing. It'd be like an easy solid 8.
Yes.
Rule set. There's not a lot. Let's be completely honest.
It's so good though.
Yeah. Yeah. The rules are slim though, but you're right. The dice pool use of this, and then using like the dice you rolled, assigning them to risks that the GM told you were risks before you did it. It's so clever. It's so clever. Like and then the tables themselves Kat. The tables themselves are really interesting in the way that they give you something to improv with, not tell you what happens. You know, I really love that a lot.
Yeah, the structure of this, I like the way the character classes are set up. I like how the adding dice to the pool and then assigning them to the tables goes. I think it's minimal, but not overly so. It leans on the narrative, but it doesn't like box you in.
But even with the character creation, like the really narrative aspects of play, where like a lot of your character creation is getting another ally, getting another skill, getting a comfort, all of which can be put into trouble later or be a burden as much as a boon when it becomes in trouble or is at risk or something like that. And all feeds into the narrative of like, oh, dope, I got this cool ally. Ah, fuck, my ally's in trouble. You know what I mean? It all feeds into itself so well in realistically, again, such a tight little like rules package, which is fantastic.
And the rules, they're very easy to understand. And I think even going back to the point you just made, the whole like adding these NPC allies or troubles adds to this like narrative of this communal beach town that you're in, that you like are you're an active part of this community that you like work around and protect and look out for each other. It's you know, I'm pretty high on this one.
Yeah, like I would say before we say numbers that different than zines, because it's books, we rate scores versus other games a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like we take into account the other games that we've reviewed. So like one thing about this that I'll say is I'm a rules light guy, right? But something like, again, Kingdoms, one of the only games we've ever given a 10 to. The core rules are light, but there's 3 layers of rules, right? And that is, I think, what always separated it to a 10 for us, is that I agree. The layers of rules. So although I love rules light games, I do think there's a lot of good narrative complexity to this. It is a little bit of a lighter system for the size of the book it is comparatively to other things. Like if you compare this to something like even something we've done recently like Alien RPG, this is vastly fewer, which is good in that the more you add, the harder it is to make it all sing. Yeah. And I'm not saying reduce because of it. I'm just saying I'm adding context to what we're about to say. But what do you think?
I don't know. I think for me personally, book length and rule set length are not like, don't have that much to do with each other. You know,
again, it's just context, not, you know,
I mean, dude, I'm pretty high on this rule set. I'm a very high 8 to a 9. You know, I think this does what it does. It has the parts I need for it, like when it comes to injury and scares and like how you interact with those and how you recover from those, and those tie back into things that you already understand about the game system. I'm pretty high.
Yeah.
You can be a deciding factor though, you know?
Oh yeah. But I'm just trying to look at what we've looked at this year, right? So Wolfwald got an 8. Swiver's got an 8.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that this for me is above either Wolfwald or Swiver's, specifically Swiver's, because Wolfwald is like the rules added on to the rules you're going to use anyway. But if we give Swiver's an 8, I don't think I could give this a 9.
Okay. So 8.
We're going to give every game. We specifically changed the way that we review games so that we wouldn't give too many 8s. And every book. Wait, let's go back to Alien.
Pick worst games, Ryan.
8,
Pick a bad game.
8. Every book we've done. Oh, Daisy Jones Dog got a 7. So 4 out of 5. I mean, but I think it's an 8. I still think it's an 8. No, I still think it's an 8.
Say, I don't know if this is really lacking anything I want to add to it. Or
no, I don't. And that's, I think, is a reason that it's not going to go down at all for it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we specifically were like, fuck, we give too many 8s.
That's why I'm saying we should give this one a 9. So.
No, if anything, because this is an 8, I would go up Swivers to a 9.
Okay.
But do you disagree with that?
Sorry, my cat's crying at the door now that he's not sleeping.
Oh no, cat!
Fucking little baby. Hey,
you can tell which one of us is the cat person. Originality. Okay. Can you give me another gay beach town eldritch horror game? It's insane.
No, I can't.
It's so good. It's so good. I don't even need to argue why. This is a 9 for me.
Dude, I can just give you more reasons why it's a 9. I mean,
yeah,
reaching even into how the rule set works as a dice pool rule set. Love dice pool. This is so individualistic dice pool. The setting, the fucking, even the way your bungalow works. You just like
the supply.
Remember
in the beginning when I said I'm going to pick that one. I'm going to pick that one random rule through the entire book that I love more than anything. I love the way supply works because, and even to go deeper, I love that your supply is specifically linked to having to go to the bigger, more expensive hospital. That cracks me the fuck up. I still want to know whether it's mainland or mainline though. Yeah, it's so clever because then you don't have to fuck with money at all in the entire game. Notice that there's no
mention of any currency, and that's as much as I need. I'm fine with that. That's great, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Claps. Yeah. Easy. I think this is an easy 9 for originality.
Yes.
And then value. So I have a whole giant list here for value. I did a bunch of research beforehand. Cool. A huge list at the bottom. So the PDF is $20 on Itch and Drive-Through, but is only $15 on IPR, Indie Press Revolution. So it's only $15 PDF if you want to go there. In print, paperback is $36 on most websites, and hardback is $45. I will say, although I do really like it, the hardback is kind of a standard hardback. There are zero bells and whistles. It's a decent print, but it's not anything crazy by any stretch of the imagination. $45 is a tiny bit expensive for this, and it'll always hold up like Death in Space comparatively. The 35 $35 color, like black pages inside, foil on the cover. Tiny bit expensive for the hardback. The zines, we didn't really bring these up, but there are bonus zines. There's one for there is the I have them out of order. There's a character zine, there's an entity zine, and then there's the Bracknell horror zine. All of varying lengths, all available on Itch. They're 16 to 40ish pages each, and they're $8 to $10 each. But again, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't think they're in print anywhere else. I think they were just on the Kickstarter, but you can get the digitals. And then there is another thing called Mysteries of Rose Island, which is PDFs of 2 8-page adventures for only $5. It does say, though, on the on that there was going to be 3 more added in 2024. I didn't see any added. I think it's going to be 5 total. Maybe they're coming later, but if that's the case, you would get 5 more 8-page adventures for $5, which would be an insane deal. So that's great value.
Insane.
And then there is the Moonlight on Roseville Beach Visitor's Guide to Cruising, which is the quick start and it's a quick start, which is free in PDF and EPUB. So everything that you really need, a quick start, mystery, and everything, totally free. So great free quick start. And then there's also a thing called Boardwalks and Sorcery by Rook Studio. It is a free SRD and creator kit.
Cool.
Once again, completely free. So there's the SRD for the game and everything that you need to do stuff. So a shitload of content.
Yeah.
Between just so you get the book, there's 3 zines, there's Mysteries on Rose Island, which gives you 2 more adventures, and then you get the quick start and the SRD and creator kit. All of that is possible for the game. So the amount that you have is a ton. So
where did you find the price of the paperback?
On like 8 different websites, and just averaged it.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's Exalted, there's IPR, there's Spear Witch. It's a little bit more expensive on Spear Witch than some of the others are. It's like a 3. I mean, Spear Witch is a smaller company. They probably have a tiny bit more overhead. So there's a couple extra dollars on that. But I priced a lot of it from IPR because you can get the paperback or PDF or the bundle or do whatever. So roughly $36 on most pages, roughly $45 on the hardback, and roughly $15 at IPR for the PDF. But $20 on our Rook's Itch and on Readthrough. So get it from IPR. So
pretty high value score overall, I would say. You know?
I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff. I think the free stuff is great. I think the amount of content is great. I think where it is going to take a hit is I do think that the cost for the paperback and hardback is slightly high comparatively to some
that's
things.
Fair.
If it was more like 30 and 40, I think it would be a better like cost, not value, just cost of the books themselves. They are just a smidge high, but you know what? Make your monies, right? But I do think just the amount of what's out there and the amount of free stuff out there that allows you to play the game without ever really having to spend any money.
That's what's bumping it up a little bit for me.
Yeah. I would probably put this like a 7-ish. What do you think?
I think so. I think if it wasn't for all the free stuff, it'd be like a very good 6-ish. And I think the free stuff knocks it up.
I completely agree. I think 6-ish would be good just because like the zines and the extra adventures you can get with the Mysteries of Rose Island. But as soon as you get the free quick start, and then if you haven't gone through the Boardwalk and Sorcery, the SRD and Creator Kit, it's good. Like it's really, really good. It's a lot of really great content. Plus, when you get the PDF, you get black and white character sheet, color character sheet. You get a bunch of stuff with it. So it is really good. Just the amount of stuff you get with the PDF. I think there's a PDF and an EPUB version too. So it's good. So I think 7 for value is fantastic. So like nice high score overall. This might be one of the higher scores we've given the entire year. I think that is the highest score we've given all year. Because you know I have to do this anyway. Yeah,
I know. Even though I'll do the math, you still have to do it.
I have to. Like, I don't know why, but it's just a thing. I do think that, once again, I think that might be the highest score we've given all year. And I think part of it is just because of the creativity and tightness of this and just how different it is from other things, right? Because like I love Swivers. I think it's fantastic, but Swivers is kind of like another adventure game, you know?
I love the cultural notes on like queer culture in the 70s and what it was like for them and what the police were like. And I think it's important, you know, like as a cis hetero dude, I'm like really into this game and I'm really into like the culture around it. I think it's incredibly beautiful and interesting.
Yeah, this is much higher than anything we've given all year. And I think if we look at the where it shined, the art and the layout are really, really great. But even in the parts that are like the lower numbers, like usability and value, they're still at 7s, which is fantastic. So it's just consistent through. With some of the other ones, I think both of the other ones might have had a 6 in some things, or like a string of 7. So anyway, 40. Highest score we've given so far this year. I really love this game. I think it's fantastic. I think it looks fantastic. It is basically like the queer version of Merkborg for me, as far as like how art punk it is. You know what I mean? It's an art.
What a weird way to put that.
But it's gosh, I just can't get over how much I love the resolution mechanic. Like the dice pool narrative. To me, it's like a better Forged in the Dark, right? Like the dice pool narrative aspects of it just really, really take it in a direction that could be hacked in so many different ways. I would love to see someone hack this game into literally anything else just to see how it could be used. So that is Moonlight on Roseville Beach. Definitely make sure to go check out Silver Age over on Kickstarter. It's still funding for some time. So check it out sooner than later, and go back everything from our Rook Studio. Richard, we got to we got to meet Richard at PAX.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
to hang out with Richard a lot more at the after party, and such a genuinely like nice, intelligent, well-spoken, like kind person. So I was very happy. It's definitely one of those like sometimes it's nice to meet your heroes kind of things. And once again, I have everything that they have ever done before I realized it, and I'm glad I have it now. I'm glad I got this book. I'm super glad I got the hardback, and super happy to have met Richard. This game fucks. Go buy it. Spend your money.
Buy it.
We will see you Sunday for Jert coming on for our Not Cat Chat.
Yeah, we're doing a Jert episode.
Yep.
Woo!
And then on Monday we're gonna have a special actual play that we'll talk about probably on Sunday. So we will see you then. Everyone have a wonderful day. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Bye.
Bye.